Welcome to Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalRadio.com. This is The Beat, and I'm your host, Benjamin Bresky. And with us on the phone, we have a very interesting man named James McClain. Now, about 4 years ago, you sent us a cassette tape of your music, and now I see you're all over Amazon.com and CD Baby and iTunes, and I want to know all about Children of Israel and the bus bombing and the whole story. Maybe that's too much for one question, but anyways, James, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with one at a time. What is Children of Israel, the song, and what's the story behind this?
Okay, it came about March 2nd of 2002. A family was killed in Israel in a suicide bombing. And 2 days later, I had a vision of a little girl singing a song to me. While I was reading the newspaper about the incident, she came into my vision, and she brought this song to me called Children of Israel, God is on your side. And she was telling me in the song, as she was pointing her fingers at me, to sing it like this, to sing it like that, to sing it like this, to sing it like that. And all of a sudden, I felt myself being lifted off of the bench down in the subway station, and I felt myself like going up in the air. And I was caught up in another realm. It was more like some kind of a spiritual realm. And I could hear these voices, and like it was coming out of heaven, singing this melody to me. Children of Israel, God is on your side. You don't have to worry and you don't have to cry, you know. And it was a song being sang like it was an angelic song. All of a sudden, I can remember just starting to write. I had an envelope. I just started writing on this envelope. Now, I'm sitting on the bench, but looked like I was up in the air also. And I looked like I was up in the clouds.
This is in New York City?
I was in New York City, yeah. Well, that's where I live, in New York.
We're talking about Shiraz Nehmad, who was killed in the bus bombing back in 2002 in the city of Rishon LeZion.
Well, it happened in Jerusalem.
The
bombing happened in Jerusalem.
They were from Rishon LeZion, but it was in Jerusalem.
Yeah. But see what happened, there's a story behind that too, that I found out from one of her aunts. I was talking to one of her aunts, Aunt Segal. She was telling me that for a whole week that the baby Shiraz, which was 7 years old, she didn't want to go to Jerusalem. She kept crying at night, and they were trying to find out why she was crying so much, so she told them that she saw something bad happening to her family. Eventually, they got her to agree to go with them to Jerusalem. And that's when the suicide bomber came up and blew up all of the people outside. I guess it was a Pizza restaurant. But she had saw it. She had seen it for a few days ahead of time that it was going to take place. She was crying and she didn't want to go, but they convinced her to go.
That's pretty sad. What was the family's reaction when you contacted them with the song?
Well, it was about like 8 months later. They were so happy. And I knew it had to do something with a spiritual awakening or some kind of spiritual divine intervention, because when I talked to the aunt, she told me that while they was at the funeral at the cemetery, one of the uncles who had his hand blown off in the suicide bombing, he had a hand blown off. He was saying that he hoped someday that somebody would write a book or write a song about the family, because the family was so special. And he had no idea that I was over here writing a song.
Wow.
He had no idea. So I know this has to do with some kind of divine intervention. You know, I know a lot of people don't believe in that. I know. But I'm telling you, it's real. It's really real. Because this song, I've been carrying this song now since 2002. And if I didn't believe in this song and the purpose of what this song was for, I would have stopped long ago. And I had no real money. I had no real promoters. I had no real nothing. I didn't have no record companies. Nobody wanted, but something kept telling me on the inside to keep going. And I know it wasn't just me. It was somebody pushing me from on the inside. I've been going ever since, and I'm just going to keep on continuing to go with it because I know that there's a purpose and a reason for this song.
Oh, yes, I know. Yes. I know. Singing, oh, Israel, God is on your side. You don't have to worry, and you don't have to cry. Singing, oh, Israel, God is standing there. You don't have to worry, and you don't have to fear. Way back in the old Bible days, God called Moses to walk in his ways. He said, Moses, go down to old Egypt land and tell old Pharaoh to let my people go. He said, I heard their sad cries coming up to me morning, noon, and night, singing, oh, Israel, God is standing by. Can't no one defeat you, 'cause he's always standing by. Yes. Oh, yes, I know that God is standing by. God took Moses high by the hand, and he told him to look at the promised land. He said Joshua would lead the people over there.
Well, the name of the song is Children of Israel, God is on Your Side by James McClain. You can look up James Edward McClain. You're on Amazon.com, CD Baby, iTunes. You can download it.
Yeah, I'm on Napster. I'm on quite a few of those tune things they got there. And,
now,
you know, I wasn't even aware of all of that stuff, and I had to find out how it all worked and everything. I went to CD Baby first, and they the one that took it over. But I'm going to tell you something. That is one of the most powerful songs I have ever created, and I have created some. But that song is a blessing. I mean, it grows on you, and like I said, man, it's a strong purpose for that song, for the children of Israel.
Speaking of other music you've written, maybe you could give us a little background on your past. What's your background?
Well, you know, I did a lot of private concerts, but I never been a big major star because that wasn't my goal. You know, I didn't want to be a R&B singer. I didn't want to be a rap singer. You know, I just wanted to sing for God. You know, I did everything. You know, in my life. I know about life. I'm not a baby. I'm a grown man. But there's something about life that we have to really appreciate, and that's life itself. Because once we don't have this life no more, then it's gone. It's gone. There's something about having a life that can nothing else replace life.
You have another song called "Before I Die."
Yeah, Before I Die. Yeah, I did that at the Hit Factory where I used to work when John Lennon. I worked with John Lennon for 3 months, and as his studio bodyguard. He gave me a lot of inspiration. And John, he loved gospel music, and he wanted to help me also. But I didn't want to take advantage of that because he was just coming back
out of retirement.
This song "Before I Die" it came about because of death. One of my aunts passed away, and there was a young lady that I was trying to help get started in the music business, working at the studio at the Hit Factory, and me and her was listening to a song one night as the engineer was playing it, but she couldn't sing to the song. As I was sitting there listening to the music, some voice spoke to me and said, "Go to the microphone." And when I went out to the microphone, I put the earphones on and I told the engineer to play it back from the top. And he did, and I just started singing. And the same thing that you're hearing on "Before I Die," that was what I was saying. I had never written those words down until like 2 years later. Then I had them copywritten. That was during the time I was with John Lennon. And after he was killed, I went back into the studio and I finished the song because I couldn't finish it before he was killed. 4 weeks later, after he was killed, I went back in the studio and finished the song right up,
What's your impression of John Lennon? What was he like, especially since you knew him right before his assassination?
Well, from the time that I knew him, John was a very, very comical person. He'd keep you laughing. He was always happy, and he was just like one of the boys, He wasn't expecting anything other than that, He didn't have a chip on his shoulder or anything. He was really nice, He treated me real good, and we took a picture together. And I have it on the website, and he signed it for me and everything. He said, "Thanks, James. Love, John Lennon," Me and him was real close. I liked John a lot. I liked him a lot,
That was back in 1980.
A lot of people like John, I mean, they still down there every day singing in the park where he has his little strawberry field over there, right next to his house,
In New York.
Yeah.
What other famous people did you meet? Because the Hit Factory was a lot of well-known people were there.
Yeah, it was one of the major studios. We had some big ones there, but the Hit Factory and the record plant was two of the biggest, and I worked at each one of them. But I met a lot of stars. I met B.B. King, the blues singer, Roberta Flack. I met Janice Ian. I met some great people in the business. I met Lou Rawls, like Donna Summers. I met a lot of these people that has been in the business a long time. And while I was there working at the Hit Factory, I was getting my training. You see, everything was laid out for me so that I know what I was doing with the music, But I have another song I recorded called "Israel, God is going to wipe away all your tears." That was the second one I recorded. And I'm going to try to get you a copy of that one over there so you can play for the people over there in Israel. My whole life now is built around singing songs for Israel because I tell you, I don't know. I try to tell people that God loves Israel, you know what I mean? And he's going to be with Israel forever. He wants them to know that he's with them. All they have to do is stay with God. That's all they have to do, is stay with him.
Did you feel a connection to Israel in the past growing up? What do you remember from 1967, the Six-Day War, or even 1948, the establishment? Did any of these ideas generate back then?
Well, I've always known about Israel, but I had to really find out about Israel because I didn't know what Israel was about when I was young. What happened was that when I got older, see, Israel is one of the greatest countries that ever was on the face of the earth, because Israel has all the history. It's got more history than any nation, any country, anywhere. Israel just didn't come in focus 60 years ago. Israel been here all the time. You know what I mean? My ranger, God bless him, he's gone on home now. He passed away last year. But him and I, we used to sit down and we used to talk about Israel, how people was mistreating them, how these people was going to have to suffer in their time when their time was right because of God's people. Israel is God's chosen people. And he loved them with a passion, you know. And he loves everybody else, you know. But Israel is special unto him. Very special. And even he said himself, if you are a friend to Israel, you are a friend of mine. That's God. You can't get it no better than that. And those who bless Israel, he will in turn bless them. See, Israel, he made Israel for himself, not for nobody else, for himself.
Maybe we could talk about how... Stay tuned for the rest of our interview with James McClain here on Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalRadio.com. My name is Benjamin Bresky, and for any questions or comments, you can email me at bbresky@IsraelNationalRadio.com. That is spelled BBRESKY @IsraelNationalRadio.com.
This is Cheryl Weinberg. I'm here with my husband Philip, and we're visiting Bet El, and we're at Israel National Radio, and we are so excited because we listen to them all the time at home in Los Angeles, and now we're getting a chance to visit them in person live. We are very, very thrilled. This is a great station. All the personnel are wonderful, and you need to listen. You can find the station at IsraelNationalRadio.com.
We made sure to test the Maccabees with the Arutz Sheva jingle.
So after 4 million clicks on YouTube, they're here to sing a very important song for Arutz Sheva. Arutz Sheva, hatachana sheli.
Arutz Sheva, hatachana sheli.
Welcome back to Israel Beat on Israel National Radio. I'm your host, Benjamin Bresky. We continue now with our interview with James McClain. Maybe we could talk about Helen Friedman and the Americans for Safe Israel.
American Israel. You know, while I was seeking out different organizations, and I went to some of the small ones, and I went to a lot of the big ones, everybody was saying, oh, yeah, this is a pretty song, and then this and that. This was on a cassette, you know. And they would yell, yeah, we like the song, but nobody wanted to help me. Nobody wanted to say, come on, James, we're going to put this song out, you know. So I was talking to a lady at one of the organizations, and she said, James, I know a lady who might be able to help you. And she said that this lady is very brave. She stands on the front line. And she told me who the lady was, Miss Helen Friedman. And she said, call her up and talk to her. She's with the Americans for Safe Israel. I called her. And when she heard that song, she opened her arms and invited me into the organization. And this was about a year after I first recorded the song.
And you've performed at their functions.
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, well, we was on that. We did some street meetings, like outside the Israel consulate. We had a lot of Jewish people out there with signs and everything, and microphones, and we talking out there with a bunch of people. And I sang that right in the street.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, I sang it right in the street. I never had so many Jewish people shaking my hand. And the little kids loved me to death, and I loved them too. And the little young rabbis, they was all over me, just hugging me, and, I love Israel. I love the children of Israel.
You have another performance coming up or another event where we can catch you?
Well, what I want to do is I want to get back in the studio soon. I'm working with Rabbi Rock. He lives in Connecticut over here, in Connecticut, and he has a studio in his home. And we're going to get together, have another Jewish buddy called Peter Orloff. His father used to work at the Hit Factory. He used to be a violinist. He used to play violinist for the backup, bands. We're going to all get together soon, record a couple more songs. Sometime within the next 3 months, God willing, we want to bring those songs out for Israel. Because I got one song that really needs to be recorded for Israel. The other ones could come later. But this one needs to be out there now. I'm glad that God put you in my path because, I spoke to Tamara, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. I've been knowing you, too, for just about that long. It's really a blessing that God put people in my path that can help me.
We've been talking with James McClain. The song, if you want to Google the song, it's Children of Israel, God is on Your Side. It's available on iTunes, Amazon.com, Napster, CD Baby, James Edward McClain. I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. Is there any final words you want to say about your music or anything?
I just want to say that I love Israel and I love all of God's people. And we all brothers and sisters, regardless of what we think about each other. We're still all God people, and we still brothers and sisters. And we need to love each other more. But, you got evil in the world. And you got to deal with evil. You can't run from it. You got to meet it head on. You don't want to never lose out to evil. We can't make any promises to people about it's going to be a bright, sunshiny day, We just got to make sure that the rain don't fall on us, and that we keep it sunny, And we don't take no nothing. We don't take no junk from nobody, you know what I mean? And Israel got to stay strong and don't never bow down, If they got to fight, then they got to fight because God is with them all the way. God is going to always be with them. He's been with them. All they have to do is look at their past. Look at their past. You had Samson, you had David, Joshua, you know what I mean? So they don't have to worry, they don't have to fear, because God is always standing there. Whatever they got to do to keep control of their land and protect their people, then that's what they got to do. We just got to have that faith, Ben. We just got to have that faith, man, to know that God is there all the time.
And to get Children of Israel, God is on Your Side, you can look up James Edward McClain on CD Baby or Amazon.com. He also has a Facebook page. I'm a friend on his Facebook page. And there's the famous photo of James with John Lennon back in the year 1980. Speaking of Facebook pages, you can also check out my Facebook page. It is called Israel Beat. I have a page and a group. I'm on Twitter. I'm on MySpace. I have a new archive.org archive of old episodes of The Beat. And of course, you can always email me. My email address is bbresky@israelnationalradio.com. Let's close off the show with a little bit of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach.